You're on the air with Florenza, your podcast destination for authentic conversations with a twist. So, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and join me on this unique literary journey. Cheers! I have with us for the third take, just so you know why we will be giggling a lot. Apparently, I don't know how to hit the record button. So we have Shakir Rashaan with us. He is the conjurer of worlds, sorcerer, man, myth, legend, and prototype. Shakir, we're going to have to do a second toast. So
no worries.
Fill up that glass one more time. I am glad that both of us are seated in our offices because as many takes as we've had and glasses, we are going to be loosey-goosey for this interview. So you've already told me that you've got a rum, but where exactly is your rum from?
It is a rum brand called Equiano. It is an Afro-Caribbean blend where the actual name of the company is based on a Caribbean abolitionist as far as that is. So everything that every bottle that is actually bought of his brand, of the family brand, so to speak, is actually a portion of the proceeds go toward liberation of different if I remember correctly, I think they switched it over to actually child trafficking, if I remember correctly.
Wow, so that is alcohol with a message and with a mission.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what? I expect nothing less from you than that. Even the alcoholic beverage that you enjoy has a message and a mission, because that is absolutely who you are. Now, for those who follow you, and I know that is a lot of people, they are very familiar with a quote that's very near and dear to you. And it is a quote from Virginia Woolf. Mm-hmm. And for those who aren't followers, or this is their first time, I want to read that quote. It says, "Every secret of a writer's soul, every experience of his life, every quality of his mind is written large in his works." And that's by Virginia Woolf. Why is that quote so important to you?
The reason why that quote, I've had different quotes that have meant a lot to me over the course of my career. And Virginia Woolf's quote has been one that's been most recent to me, and probably the most appropriate for what my career has been. What that quote means to me is that there's always a piece of me in just about every main character that is in my universe, as far as my literary universe is concerned. So there's always a piece of me that readers who can pay attention, and readers who normally do pay attention, can see what part of me might be inside of that particular character that I may have written. Regardless of their age, as a matter of fact. I mean, I've got everybody from my teenagers who are, 15, 16, 17 years old. I've got young adult, new adult is what they call it now, where it's in that 18 to 25 range. And I've got, and then of course I've got, very well seasoned gentlemen and men of a certain age as well. So regardless of the age, there's a piece of me inside of each of those main characters and those main male characters.
How hard was it for you tapping into different aspects of who you are and penning it to paper? A lot of times people think, everything that we do is fictional, and they don't realize, that in order for those characters to be so likable or to seem so lifelike, that it does require that we tap into someone. How difficult was it for you to expose those elements of who you are to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of readers?
I've been blessed in a sense to where I've had a bloodline that has been very welcoming in terms of living your truth, speaking your truth, and just being able to be comfortable in the skin that you're in. That has been a blessing for me in a lot of instances. It started with my grandfather. It continued with my father and my uncles. As far as that is, and I tried to impart as much as I could as a father myself. So being able to be comfortable, to be able to, um, in a manner of speaking, expose would be,
Mm-hmm.
for lack of a better term, of course, be able to expose and show those vulnerabilities, those flaws, those imperfections, in a manner of speaking, and be able to allow those characters to do as they do. Don't try to really constrain them. Don't try to point them in a direction from a morality perspective or anything along those lines. I just let my boys do what they do.
Yeah. And speaking of letting your boys do what they do, you have cut your teeth on just about every genre there is, with the exception of, I'm thinking, what, picture books. Okay. Not unless you
Yeah.
have one out there that I've not stumbled upon.
No, no. I haven't jumped into that world yet. No.
Now, starting out, your primary genre was very much in the adult realm.
Hmm.
And at what point were you able to share the writings that you started out with like your daughters, or at what age were they when they realized that dad is the infamous Shakir Rashaan?
Yeah, we're gonna have a real battle. We're gonna have a lot of fun with that one. My youngest, my daughter is a curious sort. That's the best way I can explain it. And she's always known that her father has been into putting words together and things of that nature. She's used to me telling stories, orally speaking. I've been,
Mhm.
I'm constantly uh, coming up with anecdotes and different things along those lines whenever we have conversations, and she's been used to it growing up as far as that was. So, and she didn't know that I was actually putting pen to paper from a commercial perspective until she got to about third grade, I think. So she was about maybe 7 or 8 years old at the time.
Okay.
And yeah, that was a whole thing. Um, she found out that I started writing. She told her teacher. Her teacher got excited, and next thing I know, I get drafted for career day, and it just got wild from there. So not only am I telling her third grade classmates that yes, I write books for a living, and no, you can't read them yet because that's not what I haven't written anything for y'all yet, and that type of thing. And that particular class and that particular group of kids made me promise to write something that they could read one day, and that became the full circle. The full
Okay, and
circle
that's
moment
what
as
led
far
us
as
into Neverwraith. Now, before we get into Neverwraith, because I do want to spend as much time as we have to that series, tell the listeners all the genres that you do write in, and start with the one that you started writing in first.
whoo. Well, let's see. I started out in erotica and erotic fiction, and then I migrated over to romantic suspense and thrillers, and then from there I moved over into uh for all intents and purposes, contemporary romance, but my romances are not contemporary nor are they conventional. So there's that as far as that was. Then there's paranormal. There's both the paranormal romance and paranormal and just paranormal stories in a manner of speaking. So I jumped into that world for a good little minute as far as that was. It was wherever the wind blew for me. It was just something that I was just comfortable with. I read in a lot of genres as it is, so it was nothing to find out what those patterns were, figure out what the beats were, and then just kind of find my place in it, in a manner of speaking. And then now, of course, I'm in the young adult world now.
One of the things that I admire most about you, both as a reader and as a fellow author, is your discipline to writing. Just share how important it is for you to have such a disciplined writing life?
I learned from, ironically, I actually learned by doing National Novel Writing Month, which of course is for all the intent for those who are aware of it, it's Nano or NaNoWriMo or however you decide you want to do it. I actually started writing I actually started doing Nano back in, I want to say 2011. And the it was never a matter of I was trying to win Nano or I was trying to get the constant word count that was required for NaNoWriMo. It was a lesson in that gauntlet, in a manner of speaking. It was a matter of learning the discipline that it takes to be a commercial writer, to be in that public and commercial space where you have to perform, you have to produce. And I know there are people that are out there and they're like, I gotta wait for inspiration and I gotta do this and I gotta do that before I decide I want to write and that type of thing. When you're in the commercial space, you don't have time for inspiration. You find it where you can, and the discipline comes in on the back end where you just literally find the time, you find the space, you do your best to find the headspace that you need, you get it done. That's really what it is at the end of the day for me.
What's one of because I know that they're not regrets as a writer, the sacrifices that we make to create these worlds is so intense and so insane. What is, looking back, something that you're like, wow, that was my greatest sacrifice to maintain that writing schedule that has allowed you to be as successful as you are?
I think in a manner of speaking is this. Actually, the wildest part was I actually did I think the majority of the best writing I actually did from a production perspective was when I was actually earning my bachelor's degree at the beginning of the 2010s. I was actually writing my Nubian Underworld series at the same time that I was earning my bachelor's degree. And I literally had, because I had to write the research papers and the term papers and all the things as far as that was, I was already in that headspace of I got to get this written. So when I got ready to go into the fictional space, it was almost like it was a seamless transition for me at that point. So it was nothing to, okay, I got to get this paper done. I've already done all the research that I need to get done and the paper's going to get written. The paper got written, and then I still had enough energy from having written that paper and completed it and gotten it turned in and all that other good stuff. I had enough energy to go ahead and switch over into the creative headspace and go ahead and get that done as well. So that was probably my biggest sacrifice, in a manner of speaking, more so than anything else. I mean, there have been some challenges in my career where I just literally said, okay, you know what, I can't get this done, and I had to have the forethought and I guess the ability to say, okay, I can't do it all. Mm-hmm. I got to focus on one thing or the other, or both are going to suffer. So I ended up having to do that for, maybe about 2000. I think it was 2017, I believe is what it was. Okay. I had to turn down like 2 or 3 projects because I didn't have the headspace to do so, because my wife was in severe medical distress during that year, and I had to get that taken care of, and I had to make sure she was, back on her feet and back on her, what she needed to get done as far as that was, before I could actually get back to being in that creative headspace, because it's just, life is lifing and you got to prioritize.
Yes. And thank you for saying that, because I believe that oftentimes for new writers, that sense of saying yes to everything and figure it out is always in the back of their minds, not realizing that maturity will let you know what you need to say yes to and when you need to say no. Now, you have some very unusual characters, and you've referenced that each of them has some aspect of the man, the myth, the legend, the prototype embedded in them.
Mm-hmm.
Of your characters, which one is the closest to being Shakir?
That's a hard question to answer. I'm not gonna lie to you. There are. It's almost like it's a one and a one with an asterisk in a manner
Okay.
of speaking. So there's that as far as that is. Obviously, your firstborn is always the one that probably embodies you the most. So in that particular instance, that would be Ramses, who is the main male character in my Nubian Underworld series. He probably embodies the most, probably the most of my personality traits and things of that nature as far as that is.
Uh-huh.
And then after him, it would probably be Dorian De Silva. He's actually inside of my romantic suspense, Love, Less and Beautiful Liars. He is he's probably the closest outside of Ramses that would be, you could literally draw almost a parallel line between us in the manner of speaking. Other than that, everyone else has a lot, but it's almost lesser degrees in a manner of speaking.
Okay.
I don't try to throw myself entirely into all of my characters because then it becomes boring. I have to try and pick and choose what I feel would be different aspects of my own personality that would help set them apart from each other and make sure they're distinctive of each other.
Mm-hmm.
That way nobody feels like they're reading the same person every time they open up a book.
And that was going to be my question in terms of how do you keep your characters being so unique and being so fresh, because you do have your series, but you're so diverse in what you're writing that for an author that really loves variety, they're able to pick up any of your books and, just as you said, feel like they're being introduced to a brand new character each and every time. So there's nothing stale with what you create. Now, how do your characters appear to you? Now, we both have a mutual friend that her characters will jump into the car and click on the seatbelt and ride with her and talk the entire time.
Indeed.
How are Shakir's characters manifesting and making themselves known?
It can be one of three ways. I have in my head a virtual office in a manner of speaking. And there's a green room in a manner of speaking, and then there's my main waiting area, so to speak, where not even a waiting area. It's the same green room, waiting room. It's the same damn thing. Basically, they sit and wait for me to figure out who I need to talk to next in a manner of speaking. That they don't necessarily take a number and they have to be in a sequential order or anything along those lines. It's just whatever ends up popping up. And then if there is one of them that has a story that's just so compelling that they can't wait for me, they'll pop up and do what they do. And sometimes it's just a matter of either I'm in my office or I might be just out and about, just doing what I'm doing. I may be reading someone else's work and I'm enjoying being in their universe as far as that is. And that character pops up while I'm in the middle of their world, the other world that I'm reading about. And they're like, oh, well, why are you doing this? This is what's going on. And I'm, so it depends on the circumstances, and it depends on what I'm doing at that moment. I'm like I said, I could very realistically, I could be reading someone else's book, and my character is like, I got something similar, or I got something that'll be diametrically different than what you're reading right now. And I'm going, okay, fine, let's make an appointment. Let's make an appointment. Let's sit down. Let's get this over with. I got some other things I got to get done. You're doing the most.
And thank you for referencing how important it is for us as creatives to spend time reading and enjoying other creatives' masterpieces and works.
Absolutely.
And, sometimes writers say, oh, I'm too busy to read. If you're too busy to read, then you shouldn't be writing. Like it is imperative that as creators that we, if it's not reading, then it has to be something that you're doing that's feeding into that creativity.
Absolutely.
So you started out with erotica, and just for the listeners to know, he's just not talking about basic erotica. He is like the king of erotics, to the point to where Zane countersigned
Yeah, that part.
on all that you do, which is phenomenal in and of itself. How difficult was it transitioning from that definite adult world into the YA world, and what has been the most fun and transitioning to that world?
Well, obviously the language is different. The When it comes to young adult, and I know there's a switch, I guess a changing of minds in a manner of speaking where um, YA in the past, you couldn't really use a lot of profane language or things along those lines. Now you can kind of get away with a few here and there. It ain't necessarily got to be, riddled with bullets in a manner of speaking. But at the same time, you can allow your kids to actually do what kids do when they're away from their parents. They some of the language that comes out of their mouths is ridiculous sometimes, but at the same time, you're literally doing it, you're trying to give as much of a bird's eye view of what the kids may be thinking, maybe saying, maybe feeling, and let them be who they are. Regardless of what you're not necessarily policing their language or anything along those lines, or you're trying to tone police or anything along those lines. Sometimes you just really need to let them do and say what they need to do and say in the language that they understand. So that was one thing that I had to learn differently from the adult world, in the sense that adults have their own way of expressing themselves, and then teenagers have their own way of expressing themselves, and I had to try and be as true to that as humanly possible. Sometimes it doesn't always come to fore, it doesn't always work out the way that I want sometimes, but at the same time, I think it's just a matter of making sure they understand, and the target audience that I'm trying to write to, that they understand more than anybody else.
How exciting is it knowing that because you've been writing for some time now, how exciting is it knowing that readers that started with you now have children who are close enough in age to be able to read Neverwraith, and to know that you've got an adult with a Shakir book at the same time that their teenager is sitting there with a Shakir book?
It is a mind-blowing concept, is all I can say to you at this point. It's like I didn't I I never envisioned my career to really take this turn. I think, in a manner of speaking, I kind of shifted in that direction to a certain degree, because the Devil's All American was my new adult, or my new adult offering. My kid, and I always say kids because I'm almost 50 now, but my kids literally were 21, 22 years old in the Devil's All American, and now that that was circa 2018 when I wrote that book. So we're talking 6 years later, and now they're knocking on 30, trying to advise my kids now, in terms of being the older uncles, quote unquote, as far as what they're doing in terms of what I'm dealing with my new series that I'm conceiving at this point. And it's wild watching that dynamic, in the sense that this is a kid that I literally conceived when he was 21 years old and still trying to figure life out and all of those things. And now he's married with, he's married and in his career, and he's comfortable in what he's doing. And, his wife is doing what she's doing, as far as that is. And they were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time that I originally conceived them. And now they're advising a new generation of characters that I never saw coming.
Right, right. What do you see is the future for Shakir in the YA space?
Right now, I think I am enjoying the fact that I can really take the I won't say take the handcuffs off.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't that sounds ingenuous, disingenuous rather. I'm I'm enjoying the freedom that being in that age range gives me,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that I'm not burdened by all of the things that adults are burdened by, as
Mm-hmm.
far as just life experiences and dealing with extra baggage and all of those things. Young adult is probably the purest form of creativity that I can conceive of, because they haven't been they haven't been harmed by life yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the thing that probably drew me to the young adult and the new adult space more than anything else, is that they just haven't had a chance to really be harmed in a manner of how I was when I was growing up.
Right.
Being a child and being a teenager in the 90s was rough sledding, as
Yeah.
far as that was, because um, we were at the height of the the height of the drug epidemic. We're still dealing with rampant gang related activity and things of that nature. It was almost like you were getting as much as you possibly could to try and just survive day by
Yeah.
day, because of who you hung with, or who you were being friends with. And those friends were starting to, you I can remember before the age of 18, I'd attended more funerals of friends and known associates before the age of 18 than I have since the age of 18, as far as that was. And that in and of itself was a thing, in a manner of
Mm-hmm.
speaking. So to be able to have those characters in my head now, and they are devoid of all of those things that I had dealt with when I was a teenager. It's almost like in a manner of speaking, I guess I get to relive things
Yeah.
differently, in a manner of speaking, obviously, but I get to relive a little bit, and I get to do it through my character's eyes.
And have that sense of innocence through your characters, or different way of living through your characters that wasn't present for you. And I love that. Now, um, as we're winding up, where are listeners able to follow you?
Easy. You can get me at home at ShakirRashaan.com. All of my social media posts, all my social media links are on the home page. So you'll be able to find me wherever you need to find me. As far as whatever favorite platform that you like using, I'm pretty much there. And then it just works out from there. You can figure out where you want to be, where I am, and we vibe from there at that point.
Now, as a hybrid author, both one that has successfully self-published many books, and now being in that space again of being traditionally published, what's new for Rashad in either one of those camps, albeit what you're going to release yourself under your imprint, or what's coming up in terms of what you have for another imprint?
I am literally trying to figure that out as we go. I think that's the beauty of the beginning of the year, is that you get to kind of take a look at the entire calendar year and figure out, okay, what do you want to do? What do you want to send? What do you want to keep? And I think that's the beauty of being a hybrid, is that you can literally make those choices, as opposed to you're just beholden to traditional houses and when and how they're going to actually get it done. So that being said, there is a paranormal up my sleeve that I think I'm going to go ahead and publish under my brand, under my house, as far as that is. And there are some other projects that I am working through now. My next YA series that I'm conceiving as we're speaking is, um, I think the commercial term is, they love to use comparison titles and things of that
Mm-hmm.
nature. So it is basically Spawn meets Above the Rim.
Ooh, okay. All right. Well, that gives us something to look forward to and a definite reason to have you back on with us. Now, as is my routine, I've got a couple rapid fire questions for you as we are winding up.
Of course, of course.
And these aren't this or that. So you're actually going to have to think a bit as far as what your answer would be. Okay, number one. Would you fake your own death if it meant protecting your family?
Yes.
What makes you sad?
Oh, not being able to do what I love to do.
That's a good one. What trait most defines who you are?
Authentic.
Yeah, I will co-sign that. What is the kindest thing someone ever did for you?
Honestly, the kindest thing that someone has probably ever done for me is actually give me the space, give me a safe space to just be by myself and not be able to worry about things for a specific period of time. To be able to have that peace for even a brief moment is priceless.
Yeah. If you could interview any author, living or not, who would it be, and one question would you ask them?
Oh, goodness gracious. Because I hadn't had a chance to speak with him or get a chance to really be around him, it would be Elin Harris. And the question that I would have for him really speaks to my own journey, and it's the simple fact of what gave you the courage to create the characters that you created, in the sense that they were, before him, there were never characters like what he had created before in literature, independently or traditionally. So I really would love to know what his process was, how he found the courage to throw caution to the wind and just become what he became.
Yeah.
Because of it.
Nice. I love that. And I love that what you're doing, that there's a young writer right now that's feeling the same way, and that through your writings that they're encouraged to pick up the pen to create worlds of their own. Listen, Shakir, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to this next chapter for you and all the phenomenal worlds that you're going to be creating. And soon I'm going to be grown enough to pick up some of your earlier pieces.
Yeah, that's what everybody else says. Like, sooner or later, they're going to grow up. I understand totally.
Well, thank you, my friend, and have a good rest of your day, okay?
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was fun as always.
Yes. All right. Take care.
And this wraps up another episode of On the Air with Florenza. You may follow me on all social media platforms under Florenza Lee or via my website at florenza.org. Until next time, cheers.